Welcome to the Pleasure Points podcast. I'm your host, James Rohr. Thank you so much for being here. Today's episode is a fun one. We recorded on my 40th birthday, so I was super stoked to share that time with my friend Mark Oliver. Mark is a yogi. He's an entrepreneur. He's a surfer. He's a fisherman. He's just a solid dude who has studied a lot, spends a lot of time in contemplation of, Buddhist philosophies and just how to show up as a good, solid human being. And to that end, he is very, very passionate. And you'll see in the episode, he goes on a few rants, which, I love. It's like, just let's hear what they have to say. And this episode was super fun because we started it a little hot. I just pressed record as I was setting up the microphones. And Mark was like in the middle of a rant. And yeah, it was great. It's like we're talking about guns. He ventures into some areas that I know nothing about. So just kind of listening and letting him go. And I'm really glad that he came on. You can check him out on YouTube. He's got a channel called Yogiza, Yogiiza. He's got a wide variety of videos there of him doing food preparation, fishing, surfing, all sorts of good fun stuff. So check him out. He's a modern day Renaissance man. And thank you so much for coming on, Mark, and enjoy the show.
But I've come to the conclusion that Joe Rogan is a mole. He's a mole. We can talk about this. I know he's a fucking mole.
Let's talk about it.
I know he's a mole.
Amazing. Yeah, let's get into that. I love Joe Rogan. I'm a big fan.
I love Joe Rogan, but he's on the take. He's on the take because guys like you and me, we respect Joe Rogan. We believe that what comes out of his mouth is the truth, right?
Yeah.
But I listened to something the other day on the Second Amendment with him where he plays the protagonist, the guy who's, supposedly for gun rights because he's a hunter and stuff, and we believe him, we trust him, right?
Yeah.
And his cohort on the thing was the antagonist that was kind of proposing ban the guns, right? Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay.
And so the whole thing was a misinformation campaign because everybody who knows anything about I don't own guns, I don't want to own a gun. But I cannot trust a government that wants to give all the rights to a certain group of people.
Right.
And take them away from everybody else.
Sure.
Because you don't have freedom of speech unless you can defend your freedom of speech. You don't have any other freedoms unless you have the physical ability to back it up.
Right.
So and it's the only single amendment that says thou shalt not infringe upon. Right. So nothing else says that, and then it's already been infringed upon 700 times with laws. Two of them being that assault weapons are already illegal and automatic weapons are illegal. And everybody who knows anything about guns knows this. They're illegal in every single state. But yet Joe Rogan's on there calling them automatic weapons and assault rifles. When he's a gun guy, so he knows that they're semi-automatic weapons and they're not assault rifles. So why is he pushing this misinformation campaign? Mm-hmm. Because their goal is to ban these guns, right? Mm-hmm. They want the public to think they're assault rifles and they're automatic weapons when those things are already illegal. Right? So they want to confuse the public into thinking these guns are automatic assault weapons.
Sure.
So they can take away all your guns because every single weapon sold today is a semi-automatic. And an AR-15 is a semi-automatic, 22 caliber, a little tiny bullets. If you went up against a military-grade gun with that thing, you'd be shredded to pieces in a second. It's not an assault weapon. It's not an automatic weapon.
Right.
But yet Joe Rogan's on there misusing the language. How's that? He knows it's not an assault weapon, and he knows it's not an automatic weapon. And I listened to him. I was enraged.
Wow.
And then all the comments down below, the same thing. Everybody's like, why are you saying assault weapon? Why are you saying this?
Interesting.
So he's an inside guy. He's on the take. He's a mole, dude.
Who can we trust?
He's a phony. He's a phony. He's fucking on the Chinese side, dude. He's obviously a globalist.
That's why he's promoting those Huawei phones and shit.
Who the hell knows? You think you trust this guy, and all of a sudden he's calling them assault weapons and automatic weapons and misconstruing. That's a misinformation campaign right there.
Interesting. I don't know shit about guns. I don't know anything about all that stuff.
I don't know much about guns. I don't own a gun. I don't want to own a gun, right?
Yeah.
But I don't trust a government because that's fascism. Because as soon as you take away the right to bear arms, then you can take away freedom of speech too.
Yeah.
You know, and look at what the fascist left is doing right now. They're trying to take away your freedom of speech, and they're trying to take away your right to bear arms. And those are traitors to the country.
Yeah.
They're traitors to the country. It's anti-constitutional. They don't like them. They don't like the country. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm left by nature, but in the current climate, I want nothing to do with these people. I want nothing to do with people that are assaulting people that that are exercising free speech. I want nothing to do with that.
Right.
When obviously the majority of the country is backing a president and stuff that they don't like. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's obvious the majority, and all they're doing is making sure this asshole gets reelected. That's all they're doing. Mm. So my conspiratorial side thinks that it's all plotted to make him winning or something. You know what I mean? Like. So when are we going to podcast?
Yeah, we're live, man. This is recorded. We're good. Yeah.
Oh, are we good?
Mark Oliver, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming in hot.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot. I've been spearfishing all morning. You know, I've been out there, getting food to feed the children, feed my wife, and get it with my own hands, wild caught. And I know it's a sin to be a man these days, but I feel like a man today, and it feels good.
Jen and I were watching. We were watching Ancient Aliens last night. Do you ever watch that show?
Hilarious. I've never really watched the show, but the guy, I know, I'm familiar with it. Yeah,
dude. Yeah. Giorgio. Whatever
you
his name
probably
is.
love that stuff.
Dude,
you're all up that alley.
I love that shit. And the episode, I was thinking, because I knew you were coming in there today, and last night the episode we watched was it was like Aliens of the Deep, and it was all about like
Atlantis.
Like I know it was like about octopus and jellyfish,
cool.
And like the shit they're finding like super far, like deep down in the ocean, and they're talking about like, yo, if you were like an alien and you had an alien base, like, and you could put it anywhere. You'd want it to be like deep down in the water. No one would fuck with you. You'd be fine. And they were talking about this whole idea of panspermia, where it's like the fish, like I'm going to mess it up, but it's like, these like the little microbes or whatever can survive on asteroids. It can survive in space. And the idea is that all life on this planet, like that idea of the primordial soup, is all bullshit. That there's no data to support that this primordial soup was actually a thing.
Well, it's a story.
It's a story, but there's no scientific evidence for it. And there's reams of evidence now that says that there is like cellular life that can exist on asteroids and meteors and like in outer space, and that the idea that it was hit here on Earth and then life could grow that way, but that things just sort of like organically arose is seems to be under debate or criticism.
Well, I mean, very few people actually have scientific education, so it's really easy for masses of people to believe that anything technological or anything they don't understand can't be coming from people. Mm-hmm. I think what we really suffer from is a lot of anthropomorphism, where we think that the way we see the universe is the way the universe is. Mm-hmm. And every single species is going to experience time and space differently. Right. I mean, probably relative to their heart rate. I mean, just the prejudice of thinking that the cerebral cortex is the mind is so delusional. Mm-hmm. Where if you look at something like an octopus, where there's no central spinal column, mm-hmm. there is no cerebral cortex, but the thing is loaded with nerves, just like you are in your body. Mm-hmm. So the mind is equally distributed throughout the entire organism, in every suction cup and everything like that. Or if you look at an ant colony, whereas you really can't look at an individual ant even as an individual. It's a neuron within a larger organism of a hive. Mm-hmm. So the human's the only species that I know of that thinks the past, that has the myth of a past mm-hmm. and the myth of a future. Mm-hmm. And these things don't exist. Yeah. They in fact don't exist. I mean, you just need a slightly IQ over 100 to kind of comprehend that. The problem is that the masses of people only have 100 IQ. It's true. That's the average IQ is 100. So it's easy to fool people and delude people and all kinds of things. But, there is no past. It doesn't exist. There is no future. It doesn't exist. Yesterday was, tomorrow will be. Neither are. I am. This is the only thing I can be sure of. And sometimes I'm not even sure of that.
What do you do with like fossil records? If there's no past, how do you make sense of that?
The fossils are in the present. I'm not saying the present doesn't exist and the present isn't an eternal wave. This is how you get into the hyper intelligence of like a Jesus Christ or other prophets like that, or other people that are truly living in the now, and they come and they tell you the kingdom of heaven is here, and they're like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No, it's right here. It's right now, and it's eternal.
Yeah.
It's eternal. It's eternal damnation, and it's eternal heaven. And so the Romans get a hold of it, and still to this day, people are sacrificing their now for something that doesn't exist.
Right.
I better sacrifice now, so later on I go to heaven.
Right.
And this is this big thing. Jesus says, and I'm not a Jesus freak, but I read all these things thoroughly, and you are the light of the world. The light of the world isn't meant to be put under a basket. It's meant to be stood up on top of a pedestal for all the world to see. You go into a church, they say Jesus is the light of the world and the only Son of God. Get on your knees, which is the exact opposite of the preaching of the man when he said, "You're crippled. Get up and walk with me. Stand." So subjugation of the stupid has been the trade of rulers for thousands of years, and it's taken to an extreme right now. I mean, with this media manipulation, it's crazy.
It's just like, who profits? I remember when I graduated acupuncture school, I was naive, and I was really optimistic, and I was just like, I'm not going to talk shit about Western medicine. I'm going to be optimistic. Everyone's like coming from a heartfelt place and all this shit. And then it's like, year after year, patient after patient, you hear more and more stories, like it loaded up with anecdotes from all the years of treating clients. And it's just like, fuck, man, you just follow the fucking money.
Well, I worked in that industry. I sold spinal prosthesis and knees and hips, and it's blood money. I mean, I have good friends and family members who do honest work in that business, but it's dubious. It's slightly dubious. But if you get in a car accident, you want to go to the emergency room,
right?
You don't want to go to your acupuncturist. Although I think your acupuncture is the cat's meow, and I love it. I mean, I got to come back again soon because I'm a big fan of acupuncture. And obviously yoga and maintenance of a healthy, fluid, energetic body. But if there's sometimes when you have extreme pain and there's nothing better than dope, you absolutely need it for the patient. And if you get shot or you get in a car accident, you need someone to crack your chest open and literally squeeze your heart. Those guys are really good at it.
For sure.
So I think the middle path is always the best, and extremism is where we get in the trouble. Like,
totally. But it's like, I think it's always like follow the money. Like, I had this experience just recently. Like, I finally decided to be an adult. I was aware of like some shame that was like, I was observing this like feeling of shame about myself because I didn't have life insurance. Right. So I didn't have life insurance. And it's like, it's just one of these fucking things where it's like, well, you're radical. Yeah. I'm like trying to like find the middle road here, and it's like, and I was just like, I was thinking the things and I was like, fuck, I should do it. Like, I'm turning 40 and it's like, I should really see if I can do this, go through the whole thing and whatever.
Couldn't you buy another apartment for the price of life insurance? I mean,
man, I got
real estate than life insurance.
No, I got a great, it's just term insurance. And so it's like $50 a month and it gets $1 million worth of coverage. So over 20 years, it's like, it's like the numbers are great. And it's like for $50 a month, fine, no problem. If it means if I'm dead and like Jenny's taken care of for a little while, Wyatt's covered for a while, like, I feel good about it. I used to always say that, like, I don't give a shit about life insurance. I'm dead. Everyone else can figure it out.
Follow the money. So the insurance company is into making money.
Well, yeah, they're in it to make money. So they looked at my profile and they're like, okay, this guy's like cholesterol's perfect. They drew vitals, like all the stuff. And they're like, he's good. Chance of him dying before this policy ends is slim. And so we'll take the risk on this guy. But the thing that got me so fired up was that, I had this history of Crohn's disease, right? And I haven't had any symptoms, like nothing.
What's Crohn's?
It's an inflammatory bowel disease. So like my experience, listeners in this know, like, I would shit blood like 8, 10, 12 times a day. Like I wouldn't be able, you were talking about the McDonald's, right? And you might have to run to the bathroom because you're feeling it right now. Yeah. Like I'm so used to like that feeling. Like I lived that feeling for 9 years.
And what did you eliminate from your diet to cure that? I mean,
it was like this whole process
just all grains?
Like
all
it was,
grains?
No, every diet thing that I tried didn't work because I don't know why. My feeling was that, because I think that like spiritually and energetically, I wasn't being honest with myself. I was really angry. I was really, really angry. I was angry that I was sick. I was angry at my doctors. I resented the fact that I could feel things. I mean, it's like this like privilege sort of like sob story, but it was my reality. It was what I was living. And so I had to get all of that stuff right. A lot of meditation, and I was doing some Native American stuff, and just like really just kind of getting my head around things, right? Just committing. Actually, what I started doing was just being grateful for what I had. Instead of trying so long to try to feel better, I was just like, no, thank you for the health that I have. Thank you for my perfect health. And that started to shift things. It was like getting me off of this fucking self-improvement wheel, and I was just like, no, I'm not striving to be great in my future. I'm just going to celebrate the greatness that is now. And it was just like, it drained the tub of the toxicity of this sludge that was internally, And then I started taking some turmeric and ginger.
Nice.
I started finding some other supplements that were great. But for a long time, I was like making my own enemas. I was making I was putting boswellia and probiotics. And I was making my own enemas because so much of the inflammation was at the distal end of the colon. Anyway, so I've been cleared. The doctors was like, we've done colonoscopies. Like, you're totally fine. There's no signs of the disease anywhere. Like, we can't believe that you aren't taking medication. Like, my license tells me that you need to keep taking, like, I have to tell you to keep taking medication that you're not taking in order for you to feel good. And and then he turns off like the recording device for his notes, and he just looks at me. He's like, good on you, kid. Like, good job. Like, to keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. So now I'm applying for health insurance or for life insurance. And they're like, what's your history? And do you have a history of this? And I check, yeah, I have a history of it. And then they come back and they say, well, since you have Crohn's disease, your premium's going to be higher. And I said, I don't have Crohn's disease. And they were like, yes, you do. It's just in remission. And I was like, excuse me, I don't have it. It's not here. It's gone. And they're like, well, you had it. It's just in remission. And I was like, with all due respect, like, everyone's in remission. We're all precancerous of some shit. Like, did you have a stomach ache 10 years ago? Like, oh, your stomach ache's in remission. Right. It's like, it's a semantic thing, but there's massive money behind it. Like, there's huge financial incentive to keep people in a place of being sick or believing that they have a disease or an illness.
People want it too. Like even the term saying, I have it, or I had it, I have it. I've got the cancer. It's just this mentality of having, I have a car, I have it. It's not the car, it's my car. It's not Dawn, it's my wife. You know? And so I changed the semantics in my head a long time ago. Not too long ago, maybe like 12 years ago. I started becoming conscious of the possessive pronouns.
I just did a whole podcast on this 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't listen to that yet.
Yeah, it's this exact thing. The perils of ownership.
It's the possessive pronoun. Right. So your mind determines your reality. So you catch yourself using the possessive pronoun. And sometimes it's unavoidable. And sometimes it's very self-gratifying. But the habit, the habituation of it without being conscious of it is the issue. But the gratitude thing is, I used to keep journals of thank you journals, I call them. And I filled 3 of them, full. And I just put the date, and I would just start chronologically in my day. Yeah. I did this for a few years, and now I still do it, but I don't really write it down. But I go through it in the head. And exercise we do with Robbie at night before we go to bed too. We give thanks. Yeah. But I thank you for warm bed. I thank you for you for toothbrush, toothpaste. I thank you for running water. I thank you for and I go through all the food.
So good.
And then I go through all these things, and it creates this presence of living in the now. And this sense, this being of grace. And when I lose that habit. Because I'm just like everybody else. I hold anger, and you can go into dark places, and get depressed and things like that, just like everybody else. But when I have the habit, like you said, which you believe cured you physically through the being conscious of the gratitude for today, is very powerful.
Yeah, because I was having, it's like, so I'd have these episodes, right, where I'd run to the bathroom, and I was like hyper vigilant of like, where's the bathroom all the time. But I was blessed in that I didn't have a lot of pain, right? So it was really easy for me to like get off of the toilet, clean myself up, whatever, and to just be like, this moment, I feel pretty good.
Right.
And it's like, oh, thank you for this. Like, this is nice. Yeah, I just like, I'm humbled. I'm humbled at the whole process, right? Today's my fucking birthday, and it's like,
great. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I've been having this like reflections, of just like, wow,
Well, wait
And
till, wait till you hit 50.
Yeah.
And then you're like, holy shit. It really is. It was a blow, you know?
Wow.
So turning 50 is a blow. It's shocking. Like, you don't think of it, but it is. It's like...
What happened for you?
It's just the realization that you're over the hill. You know, like just the number 50. I mean, you know, my physically.
But you said the future doesn't exist.
Physically, it doesn't. It doesn't. You
Right.
know? No, factually doesn't. And
Right.
that's a fact. It doesn't. It's something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It exists in your head. It's an idea in your head. Yeah. And the past is an idea in your head. Your memories are in the present. You're thinking now of a memory that is present. You're thinking now of something that will be. Mm-hmm. The will be doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is I am. And this is just factual. If somebody can't quite see how that's a fact, I just need to, you know, talk to somebody else, because if you can't see that, it's a real stumbling block, I think. If you don't have the intelligence to realize that that's an idea. Mm-hmm. And
Did you always have the sort of the awareness of the present, or was that something that you cultivated over time?
No, it's been a curse since I was a kid, really.
Surfing I mean, like, that's part of, I'm not a terrible surfer, but like, that's one of the things that I love about surfing is that it is the ultimate, for me, it's the ultimate meditation.
Yeah, well,
because the wave is like, the wave is momentary.
You're forced. It's an extreme sport. It's an adrenaline sport. So when you take risky waves, you can do learner waves, but yeah, you're riding a wave. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's no way not to be in the present. If you're not there, you don't survive it. You know, and you're constantly struggling. You know, when you're in real surf, it's a survival game. Mm-hmm. You know, your life is threatened all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's why I took my son since he's 11 days old and let him get tossed in the waves. And now that he's almost 5. You know, he just, his favorite thing to do is get knocked down and stand back up.
That's so good.
So, you know, just getting knocked down and stand back up is great for character building, I believe, and. I don't know, the values in society are slightly different than my own, I think. So, yeah. But I want my son to be able to get knocked down and stand back up and laugh at it, you know, and have fun. And
so what happened when you were a kid? So you had this sense of the presence, and did you see like adults or people around you sort of being consumed with the past and the future?
No. I mean, I've just always been someone I've just always been able to focus. You know, I've always been able to focus. And my son's the same way, I notice. He can just we can tune everything out and just focus. You know, I even to this day, it's a curse, because I can just watch the ants. I can just watch the ants crawl on the ground and be completely entertained, and not just entertained. I really enjoy that. So there's a lot of people like that. I don't think it's very special. Anybody that likes the garden or anything, you know, people.
But I think that it's one of the things that I love about you is that you have there's a youthfulness about you that is like, that's so great. It's infectious, right? When I'm around you, there's like this, you bring this kind of vibrancy to the room, which I just absolutely love. And when you're talking about the presence, like one of the things that I think that I really love about mushrooms, about psychedelics, right, is that it has that ability to just really bring you into the moment. And the research that's being done now shows that it seems to be quieting the control centers of the brain, which seems to then bring us back to a state of being like a 1 or a 2-year-old, you know. And if you remember Robbie, I remember Wyatt, you know, you see these kids just like staring at a leaf, and they're just like absorbed by that leaf, or the one of those windmill things that are going around, and they're just looking at it, and it's like they're just taking it in.
Well, I think most artists are like that. I mean, you were playing the guitar when I walked in. I mean, there's no way not to be in the present while playing an instrument or dancing. Like, dancers are completely absorbed in the now. It's I don't think it's anything unique to me. It's something that maybe that I cultivated or was allowed to cultivate as a child, you know, because all children are like that way. And I was allowed to stay a child a long time, probably, maybe too long to my detriment. But, you know, but you know, people growing up, and I never understood when I was younger, you know, thought I was strange. You know, I was always told that I was not strange, but crazy. I've been told I'm crazy a lot. I mean, I guess I'm truly crazy because I don't really see it. You know, the crazy person versus crazy doesn't notice that they're crazy. But, you know, I'm blessed with beautiful women that put up with me, you know, and have supported me, you know. I've been able to survive that way, I guess.
So Jen and I were talking last night about her Yogiza days. And
she said I was crazy.
She was saying, she was like, you know, she was like your intern basically, right? Or like your assistant.
No,
right.
I never believed in people working for free.
Right, you know? Right. But she was like doing not like high level tasks for you guys. Yeah. You know, she had just landed here in Miami, and she was like, she was like, Mark would just bring me like a like a double espresso coffee. He'd get me all hopped up on coffee, and then he would just start talking about like the Bhagavad Gita and like theory, and we'd be going back and forth. And she's like, I was like a sponge, and he was just like holding court. And then Dawn, your wife, would just be like, "Are you guys ever gonna get fucking work done? Like, come on, we got a business to run."
You know, the funniest thing about it is because you look at that in retrospect, because that's always the attitude, and that's Dawn's default. You know, it's like, I'm the only one working. Yeah. She huffs and puffs and blows off steam, and that's her like thing. So make pretend she's working hard on everybody else, and not. I'm a guy who gets a lot done and makes it look like I'm not doing anything.
Right.
And if you look back in retrospect of all the Yogiza stuff, there's just a mountain of material and stuff out there in the internet and in the ether and everything. And it's all my body of work.
Yeah.
You can't point to anything that is Dawn. You know? Yet she's huffing and puffing around the office the whole time. I mean, I love her, and I would have never done anything without her. And she works a lot harder than me. She does.
Right.
But
that's her thing.
But that's her thing. And
Yeah.
but I get shit done. You know what I'm saying? I don't do anything that I don't want to do.
Yeah. That's so good.
I enjoy what I do, no matter what I'm doing. Even if I'm washing dishes, I'm going to enjoy it, you know, because I'm there, you know, it's like I'm there. I want to get that spot off the dish, you know. I mean, it's when people are doing something and that's a habit.
That's conditioned. That's trained.
It's
and
conditioned.
That's what's inspiring. Like, that's what's inspiring is like, I love being around people who are that committed to the moment, because a dancer can be in the moment when they're dancing, but how are they when they're washing the dishes? How are they when they get home? How are they when their husband leaves, like, you know, shit on the floor?
Right.
You know, and that sort of thing. And that's what, you know, and I resonate with Dawn. You know, it's like, I love Dawn, and, you know, she and I have a similar thing of like, I mean, I had this huge breakthrough a little while ago where I was just like, oh my God, my strength, one of my greatest strengths is the thing that is holding me back, which is that I work hard.
That's what I say to her. Is that like your biggest strength? She's like one of the things is she's really good with people on the phone. She's an amazing salesperson. Right? I suck at sales because I'm too passionate about what I'm doing. So I'll get in an argument.
She calls Jen, and Jen's like, "What is she selling me now?"
Yeah, I'll get in an argument with somebody
like,
that I'm trying to make a sale with because they disagree with me. I just suck at sales because I'm too passionate. Dawn is great, but she'll be on the phone with somebody, a complete stranger, for too long. Yeah, you know, like I'm like one of these things, but you know, but. She's way better person than me, and we balance each other. We really do. I mean, I love Dawn, and she's an amazing person, and she's the hardest worker I've ever met. But there's something to be said about you know, if you look at energy as rain or a river, and you know, just being able to, you know, shape the environment to channel or guide that energy is what I believe I'm talented at. You know, so it's, you don't have to really necessarily, you know, huff and puff and blow off a lot of steam and break your back if you can see the big picture and see the energy flow and then know where to direct it. And then find talented people around you that can do that. You know, where other people, they think they have to do everything themselves. Right. And they think they're better than everything and everybody else, a lot of people sometimes too. And that's a flaw, you know, because you can't be better than everything, you know. You should specialize in something, right? What I'm good at is really I see people and I love people and I don't have much of a filter, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, you have pretty eyes, you know what I mean? I don't care you're a guy or a girl, whatever. I see beauty. I say you have a talent here. Let's see if we can direct that talent if I'm in a position to do so. Right. And then it makes it look like I'm not doing anything because everybody else is doing everything, but that takes all types to make a team work, you know.
Yeah, and part of it I think is like letting go of that, of the ownership of it, right? Like letting go of the and the, like, look at me, look at what I've done, and I mean, I fell in that trap when I was married. It's like, and it took me after the divorce to realize where I was just like, oh my God, like I like celebrate what I have done, and like I'm keeping tabs on like what am I contributing, and it's like, fuck, dude, like that is not how, like that's not the way. That's not the way of chi. That's not the way of energy. You know, it's like we just got to be a vessel and a conduit. And like, as I've been thinking about it, it's like, you know, if I could set an intention for the next decade of my life, right, 40 to 50, is like when I'm 50, I want to look back and be like, I laughed more in my 40s than ever before.
Well, I mean, a man in his 40s is really your most powerful. A woman too now. Women are taking over the business world. You know, I think like over 60, 70% of colleges students are women now. Women, for sure. All the doctors are becoming women. You know, so that's the age, you know, when you have experience. You know, I think one of the sad things about with women that I see from the past generations, more than this, is when they put most of their value in sexuality. And then at that age 40 is when they're dying, they're coming out of their power.
Yeah.
When, where I'm seeing people like my wife at age 37, she's coming into her power because she's a businesswoman. Mm-hmm. So that used to be seen as a masculine thing or a man thing, but it's really a people thing when you're an honest business person. You're not trying to manipulate people through sex and trying to, play a power game with people through sexuality, because that is very fleeting. Mm-hmm. And it's sad because I've seen a lot of my girlfriends, friends that are females, who toss a lot of good men around when they're young, and they chew up all these guys, and then all of a sudden they're 35, 37, 40, and they haven't got a guy, because it was a game to them or whatever it was. I don't know. And now their power base is fading. Right. And it's not pretty. You know what I mean? Like,
I think a lot of that, with at least what I've learned in the coaching stuff that I've done, is it's a lack of an ability to be vulnerable. So you lead with your strong suit, right? Like Dawn or I might lead with we work hard, right? But that's your strong suit. So someone who's hot is going to be like, yeah, I'm fucking hot. It's great. Yeah. And there's a vulnerability that doesn't have to be discovered there. And especially guys will take that care and be like, oh, you're hot. You like me. That's great. Like one of the things that I love about Jen is that she's beautiful and hot, and she's always just been like...
That's not what she's about, though.
Yeah. She's just she had a great example where she was like, she said, when guys tell me that I'm beautiful, she's like, it's like as if I owned a red car, and they were just like, your car's red. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, thanks. Yeah. It is, you're right, it's red. Yeah. That's it. And it's like, and that's what you see, and that's the interaction we're going to have, and that's okay. But there's so much more to it here.
Right. Well, young people are just so hormonal. So I think, it's, they think and there's a reality to that.
That sounds like the position of a toxic man. Your toxic masculinity, just blaming it on hormones.
Well, no, the female is just as hormonal, if not more, so the toxic femininity thing is crazy. And I don't know if it's taboo to say that. I know it's okay to say toxic masculinity, and that's acceptable, but from a man's perspective, you can just as easily say toxic femininity, If it's okay to say 50% of the world's population is toxic, it should be just as acceptable to say that, no, the other half might be toxic too, But females rule society. They do. It's a fact. It's from my perspective, I've never seen it any other way. Yeah. In my household, my mother ruled. In my friend's household, their mother ruled. As far as I can tell, all of society from the beginning of time has been ruled by females. It's just, the handgun was invented, and from a physical standpoint, it liberated women. Some asshole who's out of balance, who doesn't let the female rule his household, is beating his woman down. Now she can take a handgun and shoot him in the face, or at least stand up for herself. So people don't want to confront truths. They want to talk about my truth. They don't want to talk about the truth. Yeah. Somebody said on Instagram the other day, something like, I finally realized that bravery was something like accepting my truth and avoiding my fear or something like that. And I wrote back, I'm just so tired of this bullshit. I wrote back, I go, no, bravery is looking at the truth in the face and moving forward and realizing it scares the shit out of you and moving forward anyway. Yeah. That's what bravery is, instead he's flipped it on end, and that's part of toxic femininity. It is. I used to love yoga. I loved the whole thing about it. It was a discipline. It was a discipline, and now it's become, hey, be free, do whatever you want to do. And it's the exact opposite of the intention of this practice. This practice is a yoke. It's a huge. A yoke is something you put on an ox to join or unite two ox together into a cart. It's something that you take a wild beast of the body and you tame it. You tame the mind, which is a wild beast, with a yoke. So the illusion of separateness of mind and body is seen for what it is, an illusion. And it's completely flipped on its head. It's the exact opposite. Let the beast run wild. Oh, I can do whatever I want. I can kill babies after they're born. It's fucking disgusting, And it's 60% of women are out there with no men in their home, raising children. And they're blaming guns for kids shooting the school down. Oh, you can do it. And the word man is taboo. And I can't even talk about this. You're probably going to get lashback on your thing for just talking about this. Mm-hmm. And it's not my truth. This is the truth. Mm-hmm. This is the truth. These are raw statistics, and it's not, guns don't kill people. Sounds like a cliche, sounds like a bumper sticker, but it's true. You know what the number one killer of children in this country is? Swimming pools. I'm not going to ban swimming pools. Instead, you want to take away my right and give it to some other person so you can create an elite class in this country. People with guns, because they'll never get rid of guns, and most of the people without guns. So then you can take away my free speech, take away everything else, and railroad me. Yeah, I'm just not into this culture, and I think it's to blame is toxic femininity, not toxic masculinity. I think we need balance is what we need, and stop calling 50% of the people in the world toxic. 50% of the people in the world are toxic. 50%, it's a joke. Mm-hmm. It's a fucking joke. We need, in my household, we have a cooperation. We have a family, a community, And I just see the media trying to break up my family, trying to get me to fight my wife over men, women, blah, blah, blah. It's like divide and conquer. And people are so stupid, they don't even see it. That's the Roman way, is to divide and conquer. Since, the beginning of Western civilization, that's the way. Mm-hmm. He's black, he's white. It's bullshit. My people come from Irish descent. 2 million people died in 1 year from starvation of other white people, or white. I'm not white, I'm pink. Other pink people. I'm a person of color too. My color's pink. You know what I'm saying? Like other pink people were persecuting other people. They used religion to divide them.
Yeah.
Catholic and Protestant. And they exterminated 2 million people. And so all these people came over to the United States well after slavery. So none of them owned slaves. And they were all slaves themselves, Mm-hmm. Slaves for 700 years to the English. Genocide of 2 million people. Starved to death. Come over here with nothing to this country. And then when they get to the country, they get persecuted too. Mm-hmm. And then you got to sit here and listen to this bullshit news. I'm just fucking over it.
Fired up.
I'm fired up about some shit. But I'm not the only one.
Right.
And I fucking hate Trump. You know what I mean? I don't like this fucking douchebag. I don't like Republicans or Democrats. Excuse my mouth, but
that's all good.
But I got a target on my back because the color of my skin, and the color of my eyes. That's crazy. Right. And my sex,
Right.
That's the way what the media is doing right now, and I think it's some Chinese plot or something. I don't know. It is. It's somebody's paying this media to break up America, to divide it up and create civil war and stuff. And that's got to be what's going on. I mean, they're trying to topple the hegemony of the United States' grip on oil and the dollar. It's been 100 years of that, and it's coming to an end. But that's probably what's going on. There's all this media, it's pushed through Facebook probably the most. Mm-hmm. Not that Facebook's doing it, but you can pay to push stuff out.
Sure.
And then they can target people.
Right.
So it's crazy. But I don't know. Sorry I went on a negative tirade there.
It's all good.
But, it's like, I don't know what even tripped me. It's probably just, I'm just watching too much YouTube,
One of the things that I, in the coaching stuff that I've been doing, there's this one thing that I want my clients and anyone who's listening to realize is I absolutely despise, it gets back to the whole chronic illness thing, but I despise the labeling even in the psychological world, right? Of if I hear another person say he was a narcissist, it's just
or bipolar.
For fuck's sake. Well, yeah.
Anybody who uses drugs and alcohol is bipolar. You know what I mean? So
it's especially the narcissist thing, because it's you didn't get treated the way you wanted to get treated, and now all of a sudden he's a narcissist, right? And so what I've suggested is hey.
Well, we live in a narcissistic society. Look at the Instagram thing.
Sure.
So my good friends, I'm tired of looking at your face. Post something else. At least show me your dinner you're eating. Why are you just posting your fucking face every day? That is narcissism, whatever. But we're living in a narcissistic society. We really are.
So is he that much more narcissistic than you? Or is it that you just didn't get treated the way you wanted to get treated, right? Which is it's a whole other thing. So my point is what I have them, my suggestion is to at least consider, right? Run an experiment, try this out and see how it works for you. Is that instead of saying he was a narcissist or he was a sociopath or he was an asshole or he was toxic, you have to add two very important words at the end of that sentence, which is to me, right? So he was toxic to me. He was a narcissist to me. right? And so this is going to at least give you some other like frame of reference to do some inner fucking work around it, to own like your contribution to that like he's not that way because that's who he is. Your interaction with him led you to perceive him that way. And so there was something about the environment that you were creating and something about the environment that he was creating and the interaction of those two environments that led to bad feelings. Right? And so at least we can process that. But if you're just going to label someone and be like, he was a narcissist, he was toxic, he was this, he was that, like, how do you can't coach from that. You're just like, okay, it's like, where's the accountability here?
Well, what was that movie with Jack Nicholson, where he's the author?
Yeah. What Women Want. Yeah,
is that what it was called?
Yeah.
When he's the old guy author.
Yeah,
and he goes into the publisher's office and he's like this famous author. She's like, "Oh my god, I love your books. Especially I love your female characters."
Favorite fucking quotes.
He's like, "I love your female. How do you write females so well?" He's like, "Well, I think of a man and I take away accountability. What else does he say? Reason and accountability is something." It's really funny. But you're not allowed. You're not allowed to be a man anymore, Jim. I mean,
I know.
You're just
especially man with a platform.
Yeah, you're man with a
mostly
platform.
female audience.
You can pretend you're not. You could try to get popular, pretending to be something you're not. But I know you, and you're a pretty manly guy. That's what makes you fun. So
thank you. That's what I love about Jen too. Jen, I get off these phone calls and whatever, and I'll tell Jen some stuff, and she's like, "Oh, this thing," and she just looks at me and she's like, "What is wrong with these women? Like, what's wrong with them?" And it's like, it's like, where's the accountability?
Well, I mean, imagine if when your whole life, people are just holding the door open for you, and people are letting you go first, and like the ship's sinking, and you get to survive, but the guy doesn't.
Right.
Like I want to know what, like, if we lived if everything's some male conspiracy, then why is it that why don't we make all the women go to war? You know what I'm saying? Why is it all men getting slaughtered by the millions in all these wars and hardly a single woman? I mean, what about the sacrifice of man? Like that does that and happily does that, and how a man will jump in front of the bus for a woman. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's conditioned like these sociologists will suggest. I think it's instinctive. Mm-hmm. I think it's the way the species designed. In biology, we learn that 99.9% of all the species on the planet are just single sex. They're all just female. It just happens to be most of the macro species are bisexual.
Oh, is that right?
So so you have to ask yourself as a biologist, why does the male exist? Because it's a freak thing. Why does the male exist? It just seems to look like there's, a male and a female for every species because those are the ones, the big ones you can see. But most of the things are microscopic and they live in these little niche environments and they don't have to have genetic variability. So they just butt off like a potato. Mm-hmm. Like a potato just clones itself. A banana tree will just clone itself. It doesn't have to have sex. Mm-hmm. So you have to, if you really want to ask questions, why do men exist? Because the species is the female. Mm. And the male is a mutant, is a mutation of the species, right? Because you're born female, and then you mutate into a male.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting perspective, like especially when you start looking with homosexuality and stuff. Like men have both XY, so a male can relate to a female. Mm-hmm. You're female. You're born female. Female's the species. Your mother. You gravitate to your mother. Right, but you're kind of like kicked out of the pride when you become sexual. The sexual male is a rogue entity. Mm-hmm. So you're this mutant thing. That has to find its way, and really, as a single male, your life is kind of empty. There's not female or society, their culture. You have no social life really without a woman in your life. Yeah. You're just a lonely guy. But all the women are very social with each other always. They got their girlfriends, they're doing this stuff, and there's a whole richness, a whole magic garden, a whole world of family and richness of life that comes with the female. Yeah. That when you're the single man, you're denied, you don't have. You're just like out there in the world jerking off, so you find a female and all of a sudden your life is enriched. You have a social life, you have things to go to at night and family. And this is why, I refute this idea that it's some kind of patriarchal conspiracy and that men have not just been trying to figure out how to get laid from the beginning of time and how to satisfy the female. The only reason male does sport even is to impress a female.
Yeah, that's why that guitar is there.
Except for a rapist, the female chooses the male. She always chooses the male. Right. Any female, no matter how ugly or whatever, can always choose to go get laid by some guy who'd rub it on a log. So the male is always trying to figure out how to please the female. And if you have experience with females, which you do, before Jennifer and stuff.
I would just interject. I don't think they're not thinking about how to please females. They're thinking about how to get access to the female. There's a lot of mouth breathing morons out there that are not at all concerned about pleasing females, but they are concerned about getting access to a female that's going to sleep with them. And so they might learn to,
but a lot of those guys end up being puppets of their females once the female has them too. So they're out slaving and working away because she wants a car, she wants this, her kids want that, and blah, blah, blah. So they're just slaving away like in a hamster wheel trying to please the female.
To get access.
There's not many, every guy isn't a stud, there's not, it's true.
Sure.
The studs are rare,
Right.
So there's not many guys who can really choose, It's an interesting thing. And, the stuff that women get away with, it's crazy.
You want to go here?
Yeah, let's go
What
here,
is
man.
it? What are they getting away with?
The way, I've been in, as a young man, okay, things that have happened to me, things that females do, I've had my shirt ripped off me in public by strangers, just all the buttons ripped down, and all the girls surrounding just laughing, thinking it's great. Imagine if I did that to a girl.
Yeah.
What the consequences would be. No consequences at all.
Yeah.
Everybody just laughs, and you just take it. And it's a nice shirt and all your buttons are ripped or whatever,
Joe Rogan talked about this just the other day on a podcast. They were talking about the female teacher it was the female teacher that slept with a 14-year-old.
And he's supposed to feel like the lucky guy.
And he's supposed to be super stoked.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, dude, when I was 14, I would have given anything to have my teacher fuck me. And then it's like, but if it's reversed, it's disgusting and horrible and terrible and awful.
Yeah.
The response to that, the reaction is so immediate.
They even refer to a man that's in a family relationship as domesticated. Isn't that implied that the female is society? That the domestic society, the culture is feminine in its nature, and the rogue male is a wild beast that gets domesticated? So where is this? I mean, there's this, everybody thinks that Hollywood is real. Like that everybody in the past, with light skin rode around with 6 drawn horses and wore fancy clothes. That's a complete lie. Everybody was a slave. Nobody had the right to vote, and everybody was living in their own shit. There was no plumbing, no running water. There were no jobs of any kind, and nobody owned slaves except for half of 1% of people. But then you turn on the TV and people think this is a reality of how they portray the past, is in Hollywood's a reality. No, nobody had the right to vote. Not even in America. Nobody, not white men, nobody had the right to vote. You had to be a landed gentry were the only ones that had the right to vote. Okay? So nobody had the right to vote. Nobody. Until very, very recently. And it was a phenomenon that happened only in the United States. The United States was the first place in the entire world that allowed the public to vote. And it didn't matter color, skin, or anything. You had to be landed. You had to own land. Nobody owned land. It was a serfdom system, where there'd be landlords, right? Just like it is today. And everybody's working the farm on the land that somebody else's own.
Yeah.
And then the landlord comes and takes most of your crop and you just malnutrition away and spit out babies, that was the way it was for this, as far as I know, from the beginning of time, bar any 25,000-year-old civilization that the Great Flood wiped out. You know what I'm saying? From Mesopotamia forward, that's the way it always was. At least in Western Civ that I'm aware of. Just everybody was a slave. Everybody. So it's just like there's this myth that they're pushing right now, and everybody thinks it's reality because they saw it in the movies. The myth is that everybody in the past rode around in big carriages with horses and wore fancy dresses and owned slaves and all this shit. But it's just total bullshit. It's complete and total bullshit. There hasn't even been prosperity, and prosperity was caused by capitalism, by the way, since post-World War II. Before World War II, everybody was on their knees living in their own shit. And then this is a very modern phenomenon. The masses.
Yeah, the masses.
Everybody but the 1%.
Sure.
Was living in the dirt. And then 1950, you know, in the 50s, then with this Industrial Revolution, and still, it wasn't really until the 1980s that people really started to gain wealth on a mass scale, you know, and then, you know, and at that time, you know, there was all kinds of equal opportunity for people, and the scales have actually been weighted in another direction, you know, by law. So, you know, it's just insulting to hear this. Life's hard on everybody. Everybody suffers, and most of the pain and suffering is individual psychology. You know, it's like it's crazy because people can be very content with very little physical things. Like I visit Nicaragua often, and the people are very materialistically poor, radically so.
Yeah.
The second poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere with the lowest crime rate, by the way. It's a very beautiful place. But the people are rich, and every time I want to live there. And everybody who really visits, you've been there, you've been there with me. If you get in with the local people there, it's the spirituality is so rich, and the people are so much happier than the average American.
Yeah.
Yet they don't have the material possessions. They don't even have running water.
Yeah.
They have wells and things, but they live in small camps with extended family, with their grandmothers and their daughters, and so each child is raised by, you know, a larger extended family. And we live in this divide and conquer society where they've divided us up into these nuclear units, and you know, now they're coming after the family itself in a hardcore way. They're coming after, trying to divide men from women. It's not enough for them to say that, oh, he has darker skin and he has lighter skin. But they don't say that. They say black and white. Right. I've never met a black person. I've never met a white person. Yeah. I met people with all different shades of skin, going from really light from an albino all the way to really dark from someone from the Congo. But none of those black and no one's white. Yeah. It's a very beautiful spectrum and rainbow of humanity. Yeah. And when you go to cocktail parties in Miami, New York, at least the world I live in and stuff, everybody's mixing with everybody and everybody's happy, and you know, people love each other regardless of their thing. And all of a sudden you get back isolated behind your computer screen, and we're all divided up into these little niche things.
Little echo chambers.
It's a hideous way to try to gain power politically. It's hideous. Yeah. And I'm up in arms about it, and I guess I need to tune out, you know.
Well, what strikes me about what you just were talking about was, you know, when you said, you know, everybody hurts, right? Everybody suffers and things.
Everybody suffers, you know. So to say that somebody, some particular color of skin is a monopoly on suffering.
Well, that's like the heart for me behind this sort of the toxic masculinity movement, right? Is that it's diminishing the fact that there are good men out there that are hurting. And it's like, again, when I'm coaching with, you know, it's most of my clients are women, when they're on these dates and stuff, and they've had a string of like horrible dates and like terrible things and bad experiences with love and all that stuff. And it's like, you know, they can come in with this belief of like, I hear it all the time of like, all men are this, all men are that, all men are this. Just like guys do the same shit with it. Like, all women are crazy. And it's like, fuck you. All women are not crazy. Like, come on. Like, I'll talk shit. We'll laugh about the things, but it's like, let's be mindful of the words, right? But it's like, at the end of the day, when someone who's single sits at a table across from their Bumble date or whatever, it's like, that's human being sitting across from human being. We've got two hearts here in a very like precious, ephemeral moment, especially in what we think of as the longevity of this planet. And it is happening like you get this time together. What do you want to do with it?
Fuck,
do you want to
obviously.
pick him? Yeah. But how long do I have to wait till I can fuck? Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah,
exactly.
and to say that that's my masculinity is such bullshit, because I don't know a single male magazine that's focused around that, where every single female magazine focuses around sex. You know, so to put that on me as a male,
right?
You know,
It's
just
the guy
crazy.
magazines.
I can't keep up with women.
How to
women
work
want
out
sex
so they
way
shouldn't
more
wanna
than
fuck
me.
you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have that much jam, as Mick Jagger would say. You know,
Your mojo is not working,
dude. I got mojo, but not enough to keep up with a female. I mean, it's crazy. And biologically,
well, because you married a younger woman.
Well, biologically, there's a lot of things that point towards that the female is much more promiscuous than the male. And you know it in your experience. You look at how these puppet guys just get so puppetized by all these girls, and these girls just chew them up and spit them out and move on to the next 5 guys, until they fall in love with the guy. And then, then that guy's supposed to capitulate. And if he doesn't capitulate, oh, he's a narcissist. He's this, he's that. How dare he? Because your fucking female ego is so large, it's ridiculous. You know?
You used that word. So I had this office. I had my acupuncture office in New York, right? And right next to it, through the wall, was a therapist office. And normally, like, I had a sound machine going, so you can't like hear what's going on. And I was there super early when it was like 7:30 in the morning. And I lived in Williamsburg, which is like super fancy, like a bunch of yuppies and like smart, fucking people, whatever. Yeah. And I was there so early, and I could hear what was going on. It was a couples counseling session that was happening. And she's going off about like all the shit that this guy's not doing and whatever. And I'm like listening. I was like, okay, all right. And then he gets his turn to speak. And he was just like, you know what? You just fucking expect me to wake up in the morning and capitulate in front of you every single fucking day. And I started cracking up because I was just like, only in Williamsburg is a guy going to use the word capitulate in the middle of his fucking rant.
I just used the word.
And I was like, and he used it perfectly. And it's like, well done. And like, based on what I heard her say that she had issues with you, like, you're absolutely right, dude. She wants you to bend a knee. And I get why you don't want to do that.
I have no problem. There is a lot of truth in happy wife, happy life. There really is. But, you can't really, I mean, a lot of it is societal because and I'm glad it's something being addressed because it's something I noticed in female friends when I was a young man is this image of the princess that's pushed, this Disney image, and it's impossible to live up to for a man to live up to the prince, and the poor woman,
and for women too, like
it's impossible.
Yeah,
and
they get imprinted with that.
Yeah, they get imprinted with it, and it's sad, because it's hard to rise above habitual imprinting and programming, and see people as people and individuals, not as objects, not as a white guy or a black guy or a woman or a man, and these big iconic things, like you're living in a dream world.
Yeah,
that's how dreams are. It makes your life so much more intense, actually, almost like a dream. Like dreams are very intense because everything is iconicized in your mind when you fall prey to this thing. So you become triggered by all kinds of things because everything's larger than life. When if you just open up and people have beautiful eyes, you have beautiful eyes, people have beautiful hair and people have beautiful shades of skin and people have things to contribute and that can be utilized to your benefit and their benefit at the same time, like along the monkey chain,
Mm-hmm.
It serves nobody anything being prejudiced in any way towards sex or color of skin or religion. It's just going to hurt you in the business world. It's going to hurt you in every way. It's just closing doors. That's all you're doing is closing doors when you see people as that, as an object, or you stereotype people, like. And right now, it's people of my tone of skin and my sexuality. For some reason, it's okay to demonize and objectify me, and blame all their suffering and all the suffering of the history of the world,
right,
without any clue about what I've gone through or what the wave of ancestry that I represent right now has gone through and suffered through to get me to this place.
Right. Yeah, and you should just take it. I have to take it because that's what I'm told. And, I'm a racist and all this stuff and whatever. I love having conversations and making fun and joking and getting hot about things. But when it comes down to it, it's like people are people, and I love people. Yeah, you have a huge heart. And I've seen, in Nika, I saw how you interact with everybody, and I think that that's like one of the ways that I think you and Jenny are really similar is that the way you treat everybody is like kind. You come from the heart and you're just like, I want to see you. I'm going to honor you. I'm going to learn your name. I'm going to say your name. I'm going to like see you
I
as a
try to
person.
say the names because it's a flaw of mine, the names, because I'm a visually oriented person.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a masculine trait, but I'm always, and I want to make a good impression on you when I first meet you. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at you and I'm memorizing your face and your structure and everything like that, and I'm trying to make a good impression on you. And the words kind of go through my head like a lot. So I'll ask you 3 times what's your name, and then I might forget it again.
Right.
But thank God my wife is really good salesperson, and she she memorizes all the names. Dude, I need to have like a little earpiece in my ear, you know, like I'm sure like Bill Clinton was that way, and in the background, you know, he was like the ultimate politician.
Yeah.
He had the earbud there. What's the name? And he'd call out the name. You know, that's the way Dawn is for me. I'm like, what's the name? What's the name before we go to the party? You know, make sure I'm up on the names. You know. Because the names are really
just
important.
Give a compliment and that'll diffuse it.
Well, the names are really important. They're keys to get what you want. And I don't really want anything.
Right.
I've never been a person of want, you know, until recently. Now I have a child and stuff, and I try to want things, you know, but I've never been a person of want.
Yeah.
It's just strange to me. I've always been a cultivator of contentment in a way.
Well, that's because you're a white male. You've had everything handed to you.
It's true. I kind of did, actually. You know, I had a lot handed to me, you know, but that doesn't mean that all people of my color of skin have.
Correct.
You know, that's where the insult comes in, which is absurd.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate this conversation because it's especially coming from you, because I know you, you know, and it's like you're not just an arrogant asshole. It's like, no, it's like you have a huge heart. And it's just like when we reduce things to such, you know, kind of gross terms, we're missing the fact that like there's a human being who has a heart, and their heart might be hurt. You know, it's like one of my favorite expressions is hurt people. You know, and so it's like saying someone's a narcissist. Yeah, maybe they are. There's a lot of us that are in our own ways, and like that's still a human being with a heart. And maybe they need a little more work. Maybe they need things to get difficult for them to awaken. But there's a possibility that person can change. And so they were a narcissist to you at a particular time and place. And so we don't need to like continue to perpetuate that just to try to make ourselves feel better. Right. Instead, it's just about who am I? How do I want to show up? How can I bring more of my favorite values out into the world? You know, I don't even like this phrase of like your authentic self, because it's like, what the fuck is that? That's like, for me, that goes right up there with like speaking your truth. Like, fuck me, like enough with that stuff, you know?
Yeah, your truth. Your, and it's true. There is relative truth, you know, but I mean.
But still, it's like, what's the value? Like, what do you love? Like, what's the value that gets you motivated and that excites you? And, you know, and what I see with you, not to like, you know, kiss your ass or whatever, but like what I see with you is like, you value a nice time. You know, you value a good smile. You value having great experiences.
Experience. I'm all about experience. I put myself at great risk regularly,
right?
You know, because I just like being alive, you know. And
I spearfishing. I get
depressed. I get depressed if I haven't put my life at risk in a while. You know, I start to get depressed actually, and it's strange. I don't feel like I'm putting my life at risk. You know what I mean? But other people that observe what, you know, things I do and stuff. And there's other guys.
You like that climber, the guy that like free soloed the shit in Yosemite.
Yeah, you know, so I don't know why the climbing thing. The only thing I ever learned hiking mountains and stuff was, wow, I miss my bed, I miss my family, I miss my woman. What the fuck am I doing here? I'm an idiot, you know. Like, and I think that's what everybody needs to do, that because that's what they learn. You know, like what do you learn when your toes are frostbiting off and all that stuff? You know, and not to say I've done anything like that. I haven't climbed Everest, but you know.
Yeah, you might like danger, but you like 5-star resorts.
I do. I really do. I like a 5-star resort with a perfect point break and really good spearfishing out front. And I don't mind if there's some man-eating sharks in there with me. I really don't. But you know, but when I was younger, I'd sleep anywhere in a parking lot or whatever. But I think experience and shared experience is what life is all about. And those are the things you really, really remember. And we get hung up on the devil's illusion of material. You know, the illusion of material is what people value. You know, the illusion, you know, where people want to, you know, own this and own that and have this. And as soon as they have it, it's empty. They realize it's empty. But experience, you know, in staying in the presence of now without the glossy, like, bullshit new agey of me saying, hey, it's now, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, actually getting your hands dirty and getting in the mix is wonderful, you know? Like, how do you know that you don't like something until you try it even? You know, people are so busy judging other people, trying to justify their own actions, I think, or their own lack of action.
A lot of what this comes back to for me is like it's the thing that trips me up, and I see tripping everybody up basically is expectations.
Yeah,
and having these
the princess
kind of
thing is brutal, and the burden
and Jenny
on the
had
male.
like with the sorry to cut you off, but when we were planning the wedding, right, thinking about how we're going to get married.
I'm so glad you guys did it that way. Congratulations.
We were going to call you to be our officiant, but we weren't sure if you were around.
See, I just did it for my sister. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's right. It was right after that, and I think you were out of town. And our friend was right here, but we were like, if she wasn't available, we were calling you.
I'd be all over it. I love it. Yeah, it's great.
But Jenny said it. She was just like, I think she might have actually said, like, Disney tells me I should have like this princess moment. And she's like, but that's not me. Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
And I love how we did it. I mean, it's like there were like
congratulations.
7 of us there, and
it's
it was
great.
it was so nice.
It's great. Yeah. What you guys are so lucky. I'm so glad you're together. Yeah.
Dude, it was great. And it's funny thinking about how it all happened. I mean, it's like how I met Dawn first, and then I met you, and then at the same time that I met you, Jenny was teaching my business partner yoga, and then it was like this weird kind of like convergence of things. And Jen, we were talking about it where she was, Yoav, where she was just like, she's like, it's so weird that you like knew Dawn before like I knew you,
Yeah, that's how it works. It's the monkey chain. It's the connections.
Yeah. But it's that expectations of behavior, right? So where it's just like, this is how you should behave, and this is the thing. And then like women and men, they're like, well, she should be like this, she should be like that. And
how
then
about
it's
all
like
the female chauvinism? All the female chauvinism, the expectation of the male in a relationship. That's a lot of burden to place on guys, especially in today's world where it's actually more difficult for a male to get a job, get into a college, where male characteristics are actually shunned upon.
Is that right?
Suppressed. The really aggressive males are in prison. So these characteristics that were bred into the species because they were essential for the species' survival in a more savage day, and it was savage just 100 years ago.
But don't you think it's just kind of a pendulum? Like it's a reaction to the 50s, and now we're like, maybe we're over here, and you think it'll come back into the middle? Or you think there's just like a steady attack?
No, I don't think it's real. I don't think it's real. I think it's divisive politics. I think it's people trying to seize power through divide and conquer. And they want us to fight on and squabble on every single way. Yeah. They come after it. It's a very proven way of doing things. Like if you want to defeat the Native Americans, you dress up like a Mohawk and you attack the Lenni Lenape. And the Lenni Lenape go, the Mohawks attacked us, and they attack each other. While they're busy fighting each other, you go and you take all the beaver pelts. Right. You go in
smallpox.
Yeah, that's why people like in the whole Gulf War thing.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous. We're losing the war. I'm like, no, they're not. They're using divide and conquer. They're dressing up like the Shiites, and they're going and shooting down Sunnis. Yeah. And while they're busy fighting each other, they're taking all the oil. Yeah. They're fucking idiots. They don't want to take over the country. The supply chains, the oil's flowing. Oil is flowing. And they're still just fighting each other. Yeah. Like, we lost. They didn't lose anything. They wanted to control the resource. And that 60% of the world's oil is made in America. Yeah, I heard that. 60%. Did you see the stat is 30%. The U.S. is the world's largest producer of oil, right? Not Saudi Arabia.
With fracking, right?
No. Before fracking, of crude oil.
Really?
Crude oil, the United States, that's why the United States has its hegemony. Because they produce 30% of the world's oil. Way more than Saudi Arabia, way more than Venezuela, way more than Russia, way more than, Russia is the second largest producer, I think. But the United States consumes 60% of the world's oil. That's what it is. Got it. So that's why there's this thing. But because they actually produce the most oil is where their power base is, really.
Did you see the thing about Afghanistan and poppy seeds and opium? And
that's why they're there.
It was it was like.
Of course, that's why they're there.
They got the U.S. or whatever had like 10% of the 10% of the poppy came from Afghanistan before 9/11, and then afterwards it's like 95% of our opium comes from there.
Well, it's something that's essential for the medical practice, and it always has been, and always will be. Right. And everybody's always wanted Afghanistan for the poppies, you know. But now they grow them. They grow them in Great Britain. They grow them all over the United States. They grow them in Colombia. They grow them everywhere.
I heard
There's
also
big government
that
programs
the stuff for some of the electronics, like a vital mineral for the electronic stuff, and like the chips, is also in Afghanistan. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think there's a shitload of gold there too.
Is that right?
I think that there's a big cache of gold also, but it's crazy. It's like they'll sacrifice whatever $1 billion of taxpayers' money so a few guys can get Super rich. 1 billion of gold.
Yeah.
They'll sacrifice 100 billion of taxpayer money so one guy can get. I mean, this is crazy. And people think that there's, it's funny, like the Antifa people want no borders. You have to have borders. You got to put it, but there's some truth behind that, right? Because it's a false idol. Your religion, your country, the dollar bill, they're all false idols, which separate you from oneness, from one God, from oneness, right? I'm an American, you're a Brit. These are divisive things, Right. So in theory, these things are great, but...
Divisive. You said it like a Brit. Here we say it divisive.
Oh, do we? It must be because the books I read or something. I don't know. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. It must be saying it like that. But my lexicon comes from Audible. So,
where's your accent from? Oh, Audible.
Yeah, I'm a chameleon. But
like
there's this thing like all you have to do to explain to people like this. Well, why do you have locks on your door of your house? Why do you have an apartment? Why do you have a house? Things. Yeah, I mean, why not just let everybody into your house and just take all your stuff? Like, it's really easy to say, and I'm not being political here. I don't know what's going on with the border and all that. And, I unplugged my TV after 9/11. I threw TV smashing parties. I haven't had cable TV since 9/11, 2001, was it? Mm-hmm. And that's 18 years now. And I swore it off.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of YouTube. I'm a YouTube addict, though, these days. And I'm contributing on my channel, by the way, which is Yogiza. So you go to YouTube, YOU, right? T2, whatever, YouTube /Yogiza, YOGIIZA. That's I and I, like Rastafari, YOGIIZA, Yogi Iza. So check out my YouTube. You can see all this crazy spearfishing videos, all my family videos. And if you want to send me hate mail because of my opinions, I'd love to hear it on comments on my videos. So just bring it. Give me what you got.
One of the first times that I was going to have dinner with you when I was dating Jen, she looked at me before we walked in and she was like, maybe you don't want to have all of the opinions that you have when you're with Mark because he'll get into it with you.
I'll get it just for the fun of it.
And then we hung out and then she, on the drive home, she was like, oh, you guys are really similar.
Just for the fun of it. I'll take a contrary view just for the fun of it.
To spark.
It might not even be my opinion.
Spark.
Yeah, just to have fun, to share an experience, just to do the dance.
The trickster, for sure.
Yeah, just to do the dance, like
Native American ceremonies have this.
I'm a fire starter, man.
They have this trickster energy, right? And so these guys in like a Sundance where you're fasting, there's no food, no water for 4 days, and you're just like fucking dying.
Shit.
Everything's like moving in a clockwise direction. These guys will come in and they go counterclockwise, which is like disruptive, right? And they're doing it on purpose. They're in like the full regalia and they're going counterclockwise. And sometimes they'll stand in front of you and they'll take they have a bucket full of water and they'll just start pouring ladlefuls of water out in front of these dancers who are dancing and praying and trying to stay focused. And the trickster comes in just to like blow it up, just to fuck with you, And they'll wear like reflective things, even though like there's not supposed to be anything reflective in there. And they'll just come in and it's just like, yeah, okay. Like we need, and what I love about it is it's like a ceremonial way to be like, we need this energy. We need these things to look at like, what do you believe? What do you feel? What are the things that you follow? How are you the trickster in your life? Like, what are the other beliefs that you're following without really thinking about them?
Well, conflict is how we advance. That's a Jordan Peterson will very articulate that really well.
Yeah.
How there is no progression without some sort of conflict or confrontation. When you're just afraid of confrontation, you just hide.
Yeah.
Well, this discourse and this dialogue in our culture right now is necessary in a way, but I'm just not into extremes. The middle path is my way. I like balance. So
that brings me to kind of the final question because we got to head off to the party here. But like, what would be your vision of the future? Like if you could wave the magic wand and, sort of people would, do what you wanted to do. Like what is or when you think about it, like Robbie, right? Like if you could wave the magic wand, what is the world that you want him to grow up in?
Well, that's a big, big question, right? I mean, I think that where people, today is the now is the future. So what we do today is the future. So you can start, instead of saying, I'm down with that, you down with that? Why don't you just start saying, okay, I'm up with that. Are you up with that? You up with that? I'm up with that. Or why don't you stop saying black and white? Why don't you refer to people as light skin and dark skin? You know, like people within the African American community say, "Oh, he's a light skinned brother. He's a dark skinned brother." I'm a light skinned brother. You know, he's a dark skinned brother. I'm seriously, because it's all just a shade and a spectrum. You know, and people on the root genetic level are genetically and viscerally, biologically attracted to genetic variability. The smell, everything about it. And that's what people are afraid of, you know, because you're attracted to a dark-skinned woman. You know, she's attracted to a dark-skinned man. He's attracted to a light-skinned woman, because it's going to introduce more genetic variability into their offspring, thus enable them to adapt to a more varied environments.
Right. It's like mutts that like don't get sick.
Yeah,
but it's the purebred dogs.
Inbreeding. It's not purebred. It's inbreeding is the proper way to look at it. So that's why this whole Nazi experiment back in the day was a complete joke. And now that we really understand genetics, you want variability, because variability is intelligence. It's genetic intelligence. So when we talk about the future, we talk about the now. What do we do now to manifest? And it's like, I'm a light-skinned brother. He's a dark-skinned brother. She's a light-skinned sister. He's a dark-skinned sister. And when we're one people. Now, I don't want one culture throughout the globe. I don't want a globalist society. I think that's the devil in disguise. That's just totalitarianism.
Right.
I love culture. And what Roman culture has done, because it's not white man. This is a philosophy. Okay. Now, all of Europe was all these different tribes with all beautiful cultures, and most of them were feminine based. Most of them were Mother Earth cultures, and they were bowled over by this divide and conquer, fence, taxation system, Roman system. All Europeans were. All Europeans, and actually, it comes from the dark skinned Greeks, and from the Egyptians. That's where it comes from. This philosophy. And we were all mother worshiping cultures, native cultures, and it became illegal to practice our native ceremonies, our native languages. It was illegal to speak Irish for like 700 years. If you were an Irish person, you weren't allowed to own a sword, you weren't allowed to own a horse, you weren't allowed to own land.
Wow. You
were a slave to the English for 700 years. So, if you're a person who's not hip on Irish culture right now, they call it Gaelic. Oh, you speak Gaelic. No, the Irish say, I know, I speak Irish. I speak Irish, because there's a movement there, and they go to Irish schools over there like Jews go to Jewish school to learn Hebrew and things. They learn, so there's a revival of that culture. The dance is still alive. The dress is still alive. The instruments are still alive.
Yeah.
And like people, it's just this skewed myth of what America is. America is this melting pot, Rock and roll doesn't come from African Americans. It comes from the Irish and the African Americans mixing together. No African American invented the guitar or the saxophone. These came from Europe. So we're all benefiting from each other's richness. We're coming together and making a richer, more colorful environment. But there's people that want to take your freedoms away. Yeah. They're striving towards totalitarianism in a big way right now, and they're using hardcore divide and conquer tactics. Yet when you step out your door, nobody's shooting anybody. The world's very peaceful.
Yeah.
Everybody's living in harmony, more harmonious than they ever have in the history of mankind that we know of.
Yeah.
Think of 20 million people on Manhattan Island, all living in harmony daily.
Yeah.
Nothing like that has existed in the history. But if you turn on your media and your TV, you'd think you were living in the most dangerous time in the history of mankind. You can't let your kids outside. It is so much safer today than it is in the 70s when I grew up and in the 80s. But people believe in their head it's the opposite.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Jordan Peterson thing where he talks about letting his daughter walk home from school by herself. Or like, just sort of like a free range, what does she call him? Like a free range kid. My kid's pasture raised, But the arguments and the correlations about where the mass shooters come from, right, is like, if it's not a staged sort of government thing, but like there's no mass shooter that came from an urban environment. Because I think it was Jordan, someone I heard was talking about it, where they're just like, you can't stockpile weapons if you've got like six of your cousins sitting on the stoop. Like, you can't get that shit mail delivered to you. Like, everyone's going to see what you're doing. You know,
It's
and so
not
you get
the
these.
gun.
Oh,
It's
it
a
was
sick kid
it was
with no male guidance.
I think it was
They're
Sebastian
sick
Younger.
young boys with an ounce of male guidance because the male has been stripped from the household, stripped from society, and it's being stripped further and further. When you're 13, if you're Jewish, you get a bar mitzvah and all the men come, to support you and kind of, give you money, and then they ask how they can help you and they kind of guide you and things like that.
Right.
Most of our culture is lacking that. There's no initiation.
There's no initiation.
There's
That's
no
right.
male guidance for the young male.
Yeah.
And it's confusing out there for them living in this industrial military complex. Video games making it seem like it's okay to gun people down. I'm not blaming the video games, but, it desensitizes. And people do mimic.
When I was growing up, one of
movies
the
promoting the military, commercials on TV promoting the military.
Right.
It's a societal thing. It's not my right to defend myself from a totalitarian government and defend my family and defend my home, and not to say that it's okay for this group of people to have guns, but it's not okay for me. Who in gosh darn it? Who votes to have their rights taken away? These people are so, I don't want to say dumb, but I mean, they're just not thinking it through to the end.
Well, that's like that famous quote, right? I don't remember who said it, but it was something like the best way to get people to give up the power is to have them choose to give it up.
To keep them living in fear. Just walk out your door, people. There's no one shooting anybody. It's not going on. Now you're going to
Actually, this guy got shot just down the street here.
Yeah, well,
he was
probably
he was a biker with a motorcyclist. The motorcyclist shot
okay,
him.
So 6 million people, in Miami, and we're living in Florida. People get shot in Florida. I'm sorry, but we choose to live here, right?
Yeah.
And it's not because of the guns. Look at all these jobless, homeless people out there. It's crazy. There's all kinds of crime out here. It's nuts. But it's not. You're not gonna take away the rights of 99% of law-abiding, healthy citizens because of freak occurrences. Out of 400 million people, you're going to have some freak occurrences, but it's statistically insignificant. Not to say that any life lost is insignificant, but from a pure mathematical perspective, statistically, it's insignificant.
Sure.
Which means it doesn't exist really, except for in your TV. So just shut off the TV, tune out the noise, and listen to the birds, baby. I'm telling you, because reality's reality. The TV's not reality. It's bent, twisted, warped, and designed to manipulate.
Wag the dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, dude. How do people find you? Let them know how they find you again. You've got your YouTube.
Get out and get some, people. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Now, YouTube, I'm having fun with YouTube right now. YouTube channel is Yogis. I might be changing the name soon because it really has not much to do with yoga anymore, even though I have like 60 yoga videos on there back in the archives. But it's mostly about my family life and, how to harvest your own food, how to get out and have a good time. I just want to inspire people to get outdoors, appreciate nature, appreciate the now, appreciate life. But mostly it's just me spearfishing, diving. But I don't show killing of animals mostly. I just show the animals live and their behavior, and then I edit out the part where I make the kill. It's just not my vibe.
Right.
It might be someday, I know it gets more clicks, but, so it's tempting. But, it's just, I just think it's immature.
Yeah.
I don't relish in the suffering, any suffering like that. It's like pornography in a way, I mean, I know I like porn too, but, sometimes I like to watch a fish get shot, but it's just something about me. It's just not, I just don't like, I don't want to take pleasure of bragging. Hey, I killed this poor innocent animal that's half my size. And that's a very large fish that's half my size.
Yeah.
Something that's
fish.
20th my size even or whatever. I mean,
Right.
come on.
Right.
Maybe when I was 20 years younger, but not now. I'm just into taking one fish, sustainable fishing to feed my family. If I take too much, I can't dive the next day. So, I stay lean this way. So
Nice.
yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
It's Yogiza, Yogiiza on YouTube.
Nice.
All right. Get out and
Awesome.
get some. Thank you.
All right.
man.
Thanks everybody for
having me.
listening. We'll check you next time.